So I've wanted to do this video for a while now, but I haven't actually found the right machine to do it with, and that was until last week when I found this. This is a HP Z240 Workstation PC, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can actually take something just like this that's pretty cheap and turn it into a pretty capable gaming PC. Now, before I started this video, I did a bit of research and I took a look across what other videos people were doing, and there are plenty of videos out there that describe how to do this process. Take an old office workstation PC and convert it into a gaming PC, but there seems to be a bit of a split between YouTubers on which way you should actually go. Many of them say that you shouldn't do it, it's a bit of a waste of money because you have no upgrade paths, whereas others say it's a pretty cheap way of getting into PC gaming, and I have to agree with the latter. I say with the latter because that's exactly how we used to build gaming PCs way back in the day, before PCs were actually really mainstream into gaming. The only way that you could get one was actually by taking a donated machine or an old office PC that you got from a local store and converted it into a gaming rig by putting some extra components in it, and that is still a viable option today, and in fact it can save you a ton of money. For those of you on really tight budgets, you can pick up a machine like this for pretty much nothing, and then you can actually add the components that you want. Now, I've been on the lookout for a machine just like this one for a while now, but I wasn't exactly sure what to get, because when you actually come to these old workstations, there's plenty of different models out there. Some of them are very hard to upgrade, some of them are very easy, and that all depends on how proprietary the system is. Now, the reason that I chose the HP Z240 was particularly because it was a large system with a large case, which means we can fit plenty in it. It is a semi-proprietary system, which means that the power supply has to remain with this kind of system, and as well some of the connections from the motherboard, but because we're keeping the same case, none of that will actually matter. But before I go on, let's dig into the case and show you exactly what you're getting. The front of the system is pretty basic. We have some ODDs here for some disk drives, and this one is completely missing it. And we have a little bit of ventilation here, but we've got plenty of USBs on the front. That is the same picture for the back, where we have a pretty standard setup. We've got a power supply sitting at the top here. We have a placement for a fan on the inside, our I/O shield, and then plenty of expansion slots for PCI cards. The one thing that I do like about this system is actually how you take the door off. It is a very basic system. It's a little bit beaten up, but that doesn't change how it performs. But to simply remove the side, we just click this handle, slide the case forward, and we take the side off. Now, of course, inside these PCs, there's nothing glamorous. We have a basic motherboard here. We have a lot of cables, like a big spider web. We have plenty of places for hard drives and things like that, our power supply, a cooler. But what you actually get in them will depend on the sale. We managed to pick this system up for just £40. And for that, we got a power supply, obviously a case. We got a motherboard, which has 4 slots. And we have the CPU. Now, unlike a lot of other models out there that I was looking at, like some of the old Dell Optiplexes, for £40, when you're looking at them, you are looking at 2nd and 3rd gen, maybe 4th gen kind of systems when it comes to Intel. But for this one, we've got a little bit newer. Inside here, this is a 6th gen motherboard, and it comes with some really cool features. We obviously have the 4 DIMM slots, which is DDR4. We also have an NVMe slot, which is PCI Gen 3, so that's actually pretty modern compared to some of the others. And for the CPU in this one, we actually have an i5-6500. Now, that is a 4-core, 4-thread processor. It's not the greatest, of course, but it's more than capable, and it was much better than getting an i3. The system, though, is in a bit of a mess. It's got plenty of dust in there. We've got no cable management at all. It's kind of just as you would expect these PCs to be. And I know that there are some certain things missing, obviously, to make this a gaming PC. Of course, they've not included a hard drive. If you are buying a workstation PC, they don't tend to include them because they want to keep their data safe. For some reason, some of the sellers will also take the RAM out, which is exactly what's happened here. But of course, having the CPU with graphics built in, that would have been the thing that managed to actually display the picture. So of course, we need some parts for this, and for that, I've managed to get some bargains. So I'm not actually going to touch the CPU in this. I'm going to leave it as it is. It seems to work perfectly fine when we've given it a bit of a test, when we made sure that the system was running. But of course, we do need some RAM, and for that, I've got this. This is 4 sticks of Crucial DDR4. I believe it's 2400 speed, but the CPU can't see anything over 21 anyway, so we're not going to see any issues there. I managed to pick this up on eBay for just £14, and that is 4 sticks of 4GB. So we're actually going to be able to give this system 16GB, which is pretty much the minimum for gaming now, and this system probably won't need any more than that anyway. Of course, if it gives us the ability to use an NVMe, why would we not do that? They are super fast, and at the moment they are really cheap, and I managed to pick up this 1TB Crucial drive for around £30. I'm not sure how long these drives are actually going to stay that kind of low prices, so if you are going to do this kind of thing and you're going to collect parts up over time, it's definitely worth checking out now, because the prices of DDR4 and SSDs is so low at the moment, everybody should actually be getting an upgrade. But of course, what really makes a gaming PC is the graphics card. The processor being a 6500, we're pretty sure that we can't really fit anything completely new on here. And as well, we are limited to a 6-pin PCIe connection. Now that is another reason why I thought this system would be quite good. Because we're not going to be restricted to a graphics card that doesn't require external power, we can actually get away with it on this. And for the power supply, we are actually running just a 400 watt power supply, but it is an 80 watt plus platinum power supply, so anything up to 400 watts worth, we're pretty good to go. Now for the graphics card, I've decided to go for this. This is a GTX 1060. It has more than proven itself over the years. It's been extremely popular. The one that we've got here is a 6GB version, so we've got a little bit more memory than those 3GB versions, and I think it's going to go in this system perfectly. Now, the cost of the graphics card at the moment, if you were to go out hunting on something like Facebook Marketplace or any of your local kind of sites, you're going to be able to pick one of these up for around £60. The system itself cost me £40, so that's £100. And then with the price of this hard drive being £30, the memory being £14, we've actually managed to build a complete system for under £150. This is the way that we used to have to build PCs. We would take something like this, slap a load of components in it, and we would probably upgrade it over time as well. But I know nowadays it's much easier to kind of just go out and buy a pre-built system or all the components to put together, but the option was never there when we actually started this. And for many of you out there, that option still doesn't exist. This could still be the most financially viable method of actually building a gaming PC. But of course, we need to start putting it together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our RAM installed. Installing our RAM is actually pretty simple. Let's get these cables out of the way, and we're not really going to do any kind of tidy up or clean up. We could do that later on, but we're just going to take the RAM now and we're going to stick it straight into the slots and click it down. Now, of course, this RAM isn't very sexy, but that's okay because we don't have any kind of glass window. As long as we've got enough RAM to play some games, we're pretty much happy. Now, when it comes to the NVMe slot, we can simply just drop in an NVMe drive. And for this, we're actually going to be dropping in one of our boot drives. We're not going to be using the 1TB. This is an example of something that you could purchase for this for very, very cheap. I would recommend that you go for a minimum of a 1TB nowadays, particularly if you're only going to have one drive. But remember, we've got plenty of slots on here and we've got plenty of power adaptions. So you could potentially fit a smaller drive and then install some older hard drives. They're really, really cheap now if you want some of that mass storage for your games. The drive I'm going to be installing is one of our Windows boot drives, and it is a Corsair NVMe, so we're just going to slot that in there. And then I've got a game disk drive, which I will install into one of these slots. Now, the final piece of our gaming puzzle is, of course, the graphics card. And for that, we need to actually just hit these little sliders back, get our card, which is this one, and drop it into the slot. Hopefully this will go in, or we'll need to take out one of them little cards on the back. Hopefully this will go straight in over the top and it'll click down just like that. And of course, don't forget our power cable. So we'll click that in here. Now, of course, one of the great benefits of having a system like this is how easy it is to actually install things. With these older workstations, they wanted to make it super easy for people to do upgrades, and that's exactly what we did here. Everything is click and play. There's very few screws. In actual fact, there wasn't even any screws on the side plate. So we've managed to do all of these upgrades and all of these additional kind of components without even touching a screwdriver. So anybody can do it. But we've got everything installed. So now we need to obviously get it up and running on a monitor, and we'll see how well this little system games. Okay, so we've got the system built, but the real test is obviously going to come when we actually try to boot it up. So let's see if we've got anything. All the fans are spinning up. We're not getting 100% on those fans. Let's see if we get a picture though. We should get a picture through. And there we do, we have a picture. So of course the system is booted straight up. So we're in Windows now and everything is kind of working. We've got a slight delay on certain things, probably because of that old RAM running in 4GB sticks. But apart from that, everything is actually working. We've got all the drivers installed for the graphics card. We've got a bunch of games on here, so let's find something to play. Now, there's probably no point actually testing this system with something like CSGO because it's actually, you know, it's going to actually run that. So let's try something a little bit more demanding. We know that the 1060 is a more than capable card, but we'll find something to actually play here. So let's try this one. So we're going to give a bit of a go at Spider-Man Remastered. A reasonably new title, but we'll see what it can actually do with this system. The game is just starting up and everything's going well so far. There is a little bit of a coil whine in this system. I don't necessarily think it's from the graphics card. I think it's from the motherboard itself, but it's nothing too loud. And of course, once we put the side on the case, we're not going to hear it anyway. But apart from that, everything seems reasonably quiet. We'll just get this game started. Everything is up and running. We'll reset some stats. We'll check the settings out. Let's see what we can try and push this to. So we'll go to display and graphics. Currently running in 1080p. Got VSync turned off. Let's check our graphics up here. We're in a high preset, so let's see what we can actually get in a high preset. Hopefully our target will be, of course, 60 frames per second at a 1080p resolution. If we can do that with maybe a little bit of tweaking in the settings, we're good to go. So the game is actually looking really stunning. We're swinging around the city. We're currently getting an average of 63 frames per second, so our target is there. We've hit it. It seems reasonably stable. We've got a 1% low of 28, although that does go up and down, but we're not seeing any stuttering from the game. It seems to work perfectly fine. So for £150 or less than £150, this machine is actually working fantastic, and you can get away with playing games just like this. This actually looks so stunning that you can make a cool saving by building a machine like this, even over a games console, or at least a current gen games console. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, even something like a PlayStation 4 would still cost you just over £100, so of course this is going to make a great option instead. And I thought I'd try a different type of game this time, something that is a little bit more demanding than Spider-Man, and something that I haven't actually tested or even played in a while, and that game is of course Control. I'm not exactly sure how well this system's going to kind of cope with this. I've never actually tested Control with a GTX 1060 before, particularly with a 6th gen CPU. So let's jump into the options and see what we're actually configured at. Under our display settings, we're currently running in 1080p. We've got no VSync on. And then when it comes to quality preset, it is set to a bit of a custom. I assume the system's done that itself, so maybe going high is actually going to cause us some issues. I'm not quite sure. Let's save it and we'll see what we can actually do. Of course, with a GTX 1060, we're not going to go anywhere near ray tracing, although you can technically turn it on, I suppose, but let's see how well this game plays without it. Now, of course, we said Control is a bit more demanding than Spider-Man Remastered, and it actually kind of shows. We are running in that high preset still, so that's probably causing us a little bit of an issue, but to be honest, the game is more than playable. We're currently running at an average of 36 frames per second with a 1% low of 8. That's not good, but there is no stuttering on the screen. We're not actually really doing much right now, but let's see if we can make certain things happen. Well, in actual fact, making things happen actually made our 0.1% lows increase to 21, so I don't know really sure what that's about, but let's keep running around for a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll go and change some of the settings. This is a stunning looking game when it's in high settings, but of course we're going to have to change that just to kind of get it a little bit more playable. We'll go for a medium, we'll see what happens there. I don't think that we have any FSR or anything on this game, I'm not quite sure, maybe we do. We have a rendering resolution, so we can change it manually ourselves if we want to. It's rendering currently at 720. Let's put that back onto 1080 and we'll get back into the game. So we're now running in a medium preset and we've seen a big increase in our FPS. We're currently getting an average of 53 with a 1% low of 46. And that to me is actually really good. That's really, really playable. We can actually run around for a bit, see what we can do. Like I say, I haven't played this game for a long time. I don't even think I got very far in it when I actually did play it, but we'll see what we can do. We can go through this door. Oh, we've got the push ability. Oh, we've got a bad guy, so something to kill. Let's get this room a little bit more busier and see what happens to our frames. We'll throw that. Pretty sure last time I played this, it was on a controller. Shoot the bad guy, shoot the bad guy. But even with all this kind of stuff happening on the screen, we're getting an average of 48 frames per second, which is pretty decent. That's better than a lot of games, even on the new consoles, the ones that are particularly getting capped. And we did recently do a video on the capping that they're doing on consoles, just to see if it can actually play on the PC. So we'll link that at the end if you want to watch it. But apart from that, everything seems to be running fine. You can play Control, you can play Spider-Man Remastered, but let's try a last game and see how much we can actually get out of this system. We'll play something that is very well optimized, something that plays really well on slightly older hardware, and we'll see how good it looks. Now, for anyone on a slightly older system like this, particularly one that you built for just £150, one of the best games to actually play and probably give them a good test with is, of course, Doom Eternal. Now, Doom Eternal is an extremely well optimized game that plays exceptionally well on most hardware. So we're going to actually see what kind of maximum frame rates we're going to get from our little GTX 1060 and our i5 6500. Let's jump into the game. We're in the menu at the moment. We've currently got ridiculous frame rates, as we always would. We'll pop to the video settings and we'll check what we got. Borderless windowed, 1080p, no vertical sync. We'll have a look at the settings. We're currently setting high, so let's give high a go. I'm pretty sure that this is going to play perfectly fine, but at least you'll get a bit of a flavour of what you can do with a system like this. Now we're currently running at an average of 95 frames per second. There's not a lot going on the screen at the moment, but we're going to go find somebody to fight. It's now gone up to, well, it's around 93 still, with a 1% low of 80. That is absolutely fantastic, as you can tell, because that means that the game is more than playable. We've got some bad guys to fight now, so let's see how well things go. This sword is actually pretty good. We're just managing to kill things pretty instantly. But everything is running perfectly fine. Our average FPS hasn't really changed that much. We're currently running at 91 frames per second, with a 1% low of 62. We're going to collect some of these things, but this actually goes to demonstrate what kind of quality you can play on a really cheap system. And to be honest, this system has given us no issues at all. It's actually very, very quiet. It's been reasonably stable. There's been no super ramp ups of fans or anything like that. Temperatures have been fantastic. We've currently got a temperature of 58 degrees on that CPU and a temperature of 67 degrees on the GPU. So everything's perfectly fine. I'm not 100% sure how much that will change once we put the side on the case, because in terms of case cooling, they don't really come with a lot. They're not actually built to be put under this much pressure, and particularly with the heat of the GPU. We've literally just got this 92mm fan at the back. I can actually feel the heat from the system, which is quite strange, but we don't have anything in the front. You can install about a 92mm fan in the front here, but of course the best option would be to actually change the case, give it some proper cooling, and maybe we'll do that in a future video, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to catch that. For now, we have a working system. It cost us barely anything, and we can play as many games as we want. Let me know in the comments below, did you build a system similar to this out of an old workstation or office PC? And let me know the experience that you've had. Would you recommend that anybody should do it? I certainly would. For anybody that's on a super tight budget, you can pick these things up so cheap now, and you could probably get an even newer unit for just an extra 10 or 15 pounds, so that would definitely be worth doing it. I would make sure though that if you are going to go and do this, make sure that you try to avoid some of them really older systems, your 3rd and your 4th gen Intels, because you're not going to have much kind of upgrade path there, particularly when this system is a 6th gen. We've got the access to DDR4, that's super cheap, and you can get tons of it. You can just load this up with 32 gigabytes and you can do some editing and things like that as well. You can actually install pretty much what kind of graphics card you want, and it will run in PCI Gen 3. You've also got access to an NVMe drive, so you can keep things super fast. So be aware and make sure you check those kind of things out before you do it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content, and I'm sure as always, we will catch you in the next one.